For decades now, I've been frustrated by the self-serving nature of Canadian securities regulators. They write and enforce their own rules, and anyone who wants to keep a license needs to comply. These rules are often brazenly one-sided in favor of industry narratives. The most egregious of these involves communication with the public via advertising. Here's a verbatim text of the rule. A dealer member must not issue, participate in, or knowingly allow the use of its name in any advertisement, sales literature, or correspondence that 1. Contains an untrue statement or omission of a material fact or is otherwise false or misleading. 2. Contains an unjustified promise of specific results. 3. Uses unrepresentative statistics to suggest unwarranted or exaggerated conclusions or fails to identify the material assumptions made in arriving at these conclusions. 4. Contains an opinion or forecast of future events which is not clearly labeled as such. 5. Fails to fairly present the potential risks to the client. 6. Is detrimental to the interest of the public, the corporation, or its dealer members. Or 7. Fails to comply with corporation requirements and any applicable laws. My specific concerns are regarding the interpretation and enforcement of subsections 1 and 6. These concerns are ongoing, systemic, and open to interpretation. In this case, member firms are the judge and jury in the interpretation and enforcement of the rules. If a registrant disagrees with his or her firm, there is no recourse. That registrant can either sue the firm or leave. And this just in. If you're suing, you're leaving. There is no body for registrants to appeal to. Firms often ask advisors to point to specific incidents to offer specific examples. They want to adjudicate after the fact. This sequencing also presumes that the examples in question are non-recurring. When the examples cited are backward-looking, it misses the point. Protecting the public involves preventing misleading advertising from ever being published in the first place, not in levying sanctions, which are usually laughably modest, after the fact. My request to regulators is that they focus less on investigating past transgressions and more on implementing tangible checks and balances to prevent such transgressions from popping up in the future. Every month, there are likely to be additional examples that could be pointed to by looking backward. But that could have been avoided altogether if more proactive steps were taken in anticipation. We would never catch up. In other words, my primary concern is not so much about identifying past transgressions. That can't be undone. It's in getting regulators to take proactive steps that will stop transgressions from recurring going forward. The industry, through its self-regulatory organization, CIRO, seems totally unwilling to do this. Stated differently, merely identifying past transgressions as if they're isolated incidents misses the point because it does nothing to solve the problems of knowing misrepresentation that is aided and abetted by a self-serving interpretation and enforcement of the rule. Allow me to use a simple but generic example. Product costs. By now, virtually everyone knows that cost correlates negatively with performance, and in the case of active management, that past performance doesn't persist and should not be relied upon. Despite this, many firms, both product manufacturers and product distributors, write things that either explicitly or implicitly communicate that that isn't true. I'm delighted that people like David Chilton continue to calmly tell the truth about product cost and the impact it has on performance. Too few people do. Part of that is that David is not a registrant and doesn't have to comply with the CIRO rule. Since he's not an advisor, he doesn't have to play by advisor rules. My very strong impression is that there are dozens of advisors out there who would say the exact same thing if their firm would let them. Instead, firms have compliance departments that act as de facto gatekeepers of industry bullshit. They engage in what can only be called censorship by citing either Section 1, claiming the narrative is either untrue or incomplete, or Section 6, claiming the message is detrimental to the interest of the public. It's outrageous. Too many firms make their money by promoting active management as a profit center. What an investor might call a cost is what a product manufacturer might call profit. The financial services industry engages in bullshit. It shifts people's attention to make them feel bullish. Getting people to feel bullish may be good for business, but it seldom ends up helping or representing the client's best interests. Too often, advisors have wanted to come clean on the impact of high costs on investor performance, but they have been ostracized or terminated for having the temerity to simply tell the truth and put their clients ahead of their product suppliers and employers.